FDR and Hoover just had a spat, or just really disliked each other, so we changed the name of the Hoover Dam to Boulder Dam, and it has since been changed back.
Good, that's right, that's right. And this is during the Great Depression power plant.
I was going to say, it's also part of the infrastructure, wasn't it, to get more jobs? So
It
he did a lot of these big. He did the parks too, wasn't it? To create more jobs.
That's right.
Economic
That's right. And Roosevelt didn't want him to get recognition for it, so part of changing the Hoover Dam was to take away that recognition. The other part was, if we blame Hoover, we make the Depression a bit, we give it a tangible figure that we can pick on. Okay, Hoover. Right? It's very difficult to get our minds around it. I mean, think about the 2008 Great Recession. It's very difficult to find who to blame. Right now, who are we blaming for the Great Recession? The rich people in the banks, primarily, right? Are they purely at fault here? Thomas?
No comment.
I mean, aren't we partially at fault as well for taking out these mortgages we know we can't afford? Going excessively into debt? I mean, we're partly at fault too. But that doesn't sound right, does it? It's not my fault. It's the
They
rich.
shouldn't have offered those, we shouldn't have signed them.
They shouldn't have offered, we shouldn't have signed. So we're both to blame. And yet let's pick on the rich. Poor rich. Poor rich. Good. The Nye Committee, this is from the Great Depression of World War I.
I mean, they suggested that the U.S. got involved in the war because it was in their best interest for Britain to win, because they were throwing out loans to both sides. But more was owed to them from one side.
Perfect. What else does this tie into on the list here? Do I have it on here? Yes, 21.
Oh.
Merchants of death are the families in America that got exponentially wealthy because of selling arms to nations during the First World War. The Nye Committee uncovered this during their research, and that these families made all this extra money. Remember, the United States went from being in debt by 1.3 billion to being a nation that was owed 1.3 billion over a period of 4 years. That's an incredible turnaround, all right? And it's primarily through gun sales, right? So those are the merchants of death, all right? Some of the major families you know today, Kennedys, Rothschilds, these individuals, right? Goldman Sachs is another big one. Good. Anna Anderson.
She was the person supposedly from Anastasia, wasn't it?
Perfect, yeah. This is from the Russian Mysteries again. She was supposed to be Anastasia, right?
Was she German?
And what was her nationality?
She was German.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knew it.
Now, why is she important?
Well, there are people who still think Anastasia's alive today, so
Good.
I think it's just one of those probably arguments they'll bring up in the conversation.
Yeah, like Elvis, right? It's the desire to bring back monarchy. Right? The desire to bring back the monarchy. Good.
So just going back to the Nye Committee, it was
Yes.
the committee charged with figuring out basically why the U.S. was changed from having a debt to having a surplus?
It was a committee formed to find out why the United States got into the First World War. All right. And what they found was the United States made a ton of money from the First World War. Operation Ajax would be from the CIA section last week. This is the overthrow of the Shah in Iran. Okay. CIA's operation to overthrow the Shah in Iran. Why is this important? Well, how are relations with Iran today?
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Based upon this particular operation still. All right. Same with Argo, based on this operation as well. All the events in Argo. Right. It's called Blowback, ladies and gentlemen. CIA Blowback. A wonderful book called Blowback. All right, if you ever want to read a book about operations that the CIA did and how years later it came back to bite us in the ass. All right. 9/11 is a wonderful example. All right. Argo is a great example. Issues in Korea today are a great example. These are all examples of blowback. Leo Frank, we looked at. Oswald Rayner, once again from the Russian Mysteries section. This is the dude who shot Rasputin, right? The British secret agent. Okay. For the longest time, we believed it was members of the royal family that shot Rasputin. We now have some evidence, I wouldn't say concrete evidence, but the bullets they found in Rasputin came from a gun that only the British Empire were using at that time. And that's all you need to say. I don't need to know about the caliber and all that stuff. Just the bullets in Rasputin's body were only used by weapons used in the British Empire at that time. Oswald Rayner had all his notes burnt, but we still have some communication indicating that Oswald is in that area at the time dealing with a significant problem, right? And Rasputin disappears. And why do the British want Rasputin dead? Crazy Russian guy? Yeah, okay.
Russian psychic.
Yeah, well, yeah, because the Russian Revolution would pull Russia out of the war, and that would really suck for Britain, all right, if Russia comes out of the First World War. Because that makes a two-front war, a one-front war, and that creates a lot of problems for Russia and France. Everything creates problems for France, but that one would for sure.
Wait, so they wanted him dead because they wanted Russia out of the war?
They wanted Russia to stay in, and he was telling people to get out of the war. Protocols of the Elders of Zion. This is from the anti-Semitism section again. Anybody remember this one?
Isn't that like the secret Jewish overlords of the world who would fight and take over the entire planet?
That's right. Yeah.
Is it an actual book?
It is. Yeah. It was written in France, reinforced in Russia, brought over to Canada, brought over to America.
Oh, they just keep changing the name?
Yeah, in America they changed Jew to Reds or Bolsheviks, all right? So you can change it to mean any sort of group that you hate at that time. But in this particular case, it was initiated by Jews, or initiated for Jews. And the importance of it is it reaffirms the stereotypes we have of the 20th century Jew. What are some of those stereotypes we have of Jews? Pardon me? Greedy?
Clean.
Clingy?
Clean.
Oh, clean. Yeah, that's not really a bad thing, is it? Clean?
Oh, I thought you were
Yeah.
just saying anything about them.
The cheap or the financial aspect of it, trying to take over the media, all right, is another big one. All right, these are the two, and they're reaffirmed in that document. It's a false document. Remember, the Emperor of Russia at that time said, "We can't have this book because while it's true, all these arguments are true, we can't have it based on a false document." All right. Good. The Yellow Peril ties in with the Executive Order 9066, Khrushchev's Agricultural Development Plan, which we looked at last week in the Soviet Union.
That was moving some of the wheat production from Ukraine into Siberia, wasn't it?
Perfect.
So it could grow, so it could expand other industries within Russia. It was like meat area or something, wasn't it?
Perfect. And populate that area.
Yeah, popular, yeah.
Yeah, and what did they put in Ukraine?
Maize.
Maize, corn. Okay, you can put corn, you don't have to try and, the different spellings they get for maize are just incredible.
What section was that from?
That's from last week.
Oh.
Yeah, so CIA and the fall of the Soviet Union. Perfect. And the importance is that's the first nail in the fall of the Soviet Union, right? It takes place in the 50s and 60s, and it starts the process of the Soviet Union falling. Remember, the Soviet Union collapses in 4 years very quickly, but we start with this particular instance. Right after Stalin dies, this is Khrushchev's big plan. Good, Merchants of Death we looked at. DM.
Who's the leader that they put into, was it Vietnam?
So,
Yeah,
South
it was
Vietnam.
the Americans started putting power, wasn't it? He got too greedy and ended up taking over, or ended up laundering a lot of his money.
perfect. Perfect. What happened to him?
He was assassinated.
Yeah, Kennedy had him assassinated. All right,
This
Kennedy.
is 22, right?
Yep, 22. Kennedy had him assassinated. Remember I showed you the video last week of Johnson admitting that he and Kennedy had him assassinated. The importance of that is twofold. A, it kind of shines a negative light on Kennedy, right? Because we have a pretty positive outlook on Kennedy, I think, for the most part. However, rarely spoken about is the fact that he had heads of states assassinated. I think that would put kind of a black nail on his life. And the other part is it shows that the dictator the Americans put in power isn't working for them. If you want to mention that he won 98% of the popular vote, it doesn't hurt, right? 98% of the popular vote. And as we mentioned a couple of weeks back, if you win 98% of the popular vote, what does that usually mean? Yeah, the election was rigged, right? Usually. Good. Kamikaze techniques. Everybody should be familiar with this one. Chad, you know what this one is?
Well,
When the Japanese would only give enough fuel in the planes for them to pretty much go crash into the battleships or whatever.
Perfect. One plane, one ship, all right?
Yeah.
The importance is it shows the desperation of the Japanese army, which comes into play when we think about the bomb. Did we have to drop the bomb? Because look how desperate they were, all right?